Hello again. The title of this video is called Understanding. Now, I want to break this video into two parts. I want to approach understanding from the world's way of thinking and then from God's. So let's get on to the first point is the world and how the world views people in um, whether it could be loneliness or bitterness or anger and what the world's reaction would tend to be toward that. I want to get to basically saying that if we allow ourselves to, we can become offended by different people's reactions. It could be like you're sitting in a crowded place and somebody you see somebody looking at you and they're like that, and you could be like, what's their problem? Why are they looking at me like that? And then we can start becoming offended if we don't know basically their situation. Why are they looking at? Why are they looking like that? And basically, this is something that I will try to get back to once um, I go further on with this video. So, uh, like I said, we can easily become offended by people and their actions. Um, so let's say you meet somebody that's bitter, you know, you could be like, well, I don't want to talk to them. You know, the way they treated me last time, I don't want nothing to do with them. You can somebody that's angry, you can get angry back at them, and want to punch them, and you know, uh, all these other things. Flip them the bird, run them over with your car because of their anger issue. Somebody that's depressed, you probably just don't want to deal with that, so you just move on and have nothing to do with them. Or somebody that's lonely, you tell them, find somebody to be with or get a dog or something like that. And sometimes we can easily have this, um, antidote to their situation, and we know it's best if somebody's angry, punch them, or somebody's bitter, punch them, and somebody that's lonely, tell them to get a dog or find somebody. And this is basically the reaction of the world to each of these, and I'm sure there's plenty of other examples that I could give, but these are the ones that I had wrote down and ones that have come to my mind. Um, I know it's not easy when we encounter somebody that's angry or bitter or lonely or depressed. That we tend to want to react from the flesh. Now, this is the world's reaction. The world is all about following the flesh. And if you're a Christian and you desire to follow God's way, that means that we as believers need to be understanding. Now, understanding means that you know about the person, you know about their past, uh, where we can only see one small part of their lives. But if we allow God to, He can lead us into seeing the bigger picture of that person's life. So God can help you to be understanding. For somebody that's bitter, why are they bitter? Will you desire to get to know why they are bitter? Will you desire to get to know their past? There's somebody that's elderly, maybe they were put into a nursing home or something like that, and that could be the reason why they're bitter. Maybe the kids had no choice but to stick them in the nursing home, or maybe they just didn't want to deal with their parent anymore, so they stick them in a nursing home, and that the parent's bitter. So that could be the reason why. And so from that bitterness, somebody gets angry towards you and reacts to you in anger. And somebody that's angry, you don't know about their past. I mean, do you desire to, look past that and get to know them, get to know their past? Why are they angry? Maybe they were divorced and, they were battered, or, maybe they were abused sexually or physically or any other kind of way in which angry, or maybe their parents didn't have time for them. Maybe they didn't want nothing to do with them, and so that's the reason why they're angry, or we don't know. I mean, it just takes time to spend with that person if we allow ourselves to. Like I said, to look past the bitterness, look past the anger, and get to know the person. And what comes to mind is the movie Patch Adams. You remember the patient in there that was bitter and angry at all the nurses, and all the nurses were reacting to them, and only one nurse was understanding of this patient's situation, and this person was in pain all the time. So if somebody's in pain all the time, they're easily going to become irritable and angry and bitter. So the older nurse, she's like, "What do you expect, hon? I mean, you know, how would you feel in his situation?" So she understood. And Patch Adams, he decided to get to know the man. And so what really broke down the man's offenses was Patch's sense of humor. And it got the man happy, and he got to know Patch, and Patch got to know him. And at his deathbed, Patch was all upset, and so it takes love to get to know somebody. It takes love to be understanding. And so, God can help us to be understanding if that is really our desire. Like I said, it takes, getting to know their past, but do we want to? Um, it also helps to hear God's instruction. If have heard his voice, he will lead you into what you need to do and what actions you need to take. Um, you can do that in nursing homes. You've encountered people that are, bitter and angry. And I've heard of examples in nursing homes where somebody that I know was working in there, and elderly person said to the person that was working in there, "You're ugly." And it's so very easy, and I can totally relate to, becoming offended, because that can easily become offended. I mean, I was told by, family members of how obese I was, and I didn't like that. I didn't like hearing that. So, um, really, it takes love to want to be understanding, to look past the bitterness, to look past the hurt. And once we do, what they say isn't going to bother us anymore. It'll be like, water on a duck's back. It's just going to fall off. And, I think of another brother. Me and him and a few other brothers were praying for this man that was new to our church, and he was coming in to visit. And so this brother of mine placed his hand on this guy's knee, and the guy moved his hand. Now, somebody of the world could be like, "What'd you move my hand for? What's your problem?" And you can become offended at that, or you can be understanding and think, "Okay, why does this person do that? Maybe he was sexually abused. Maybe he didn't want to be touched." Or, it could be the dude's macho. You don't want to be touched like that, and that's not the way he is. So being understanding would help us to see that. And so, let's see. Looking at biblical examples, the woman that was caught in adultery, if you remember, um, who knows, why she, was in that place. Maybe it was a setup, and they wanted to trap Jesus, like it said. But knowing the woman's past, why was she in doing that kind of stuff? Maybe she was sexually abused. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe she didn't know what her father's love was. So the first guy that came along, maybe he raped her, and maybe her self-worth was low. And so she decided to, pursue that route. So looking at the next example, the man that was a leper that approached Jesus, he said, "Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean." And Jesus didn't care. He walked up to him and said, "I am willing, be clean." And the man was healed. Jesus knew the hurt of the past. I mean, I read a book once that lepers that were in the time of Israel, before, they got up to people, they would say, "Unclean, unclean." So, maybe that person's heart was, broken. But Jesus saw past that. Jesus knew him. He knew his heart because that's what God revealed to him. And so when we are understanding of somebody, then compassion comes, love comes. So that's what Jesus had. Now, the last example I want to give is the disciples of Jesus, and how they were asking Jesus who was first, who is going to be sitting to Jesus' left and right. And Jesus said, it's not up to me, it's up to the Father, whoever's going to place them next to me. And so that was the disciples' focus, is who was first, because Jesus used to bring Peter, James, and John with him. And so, they thought that they were, up there, popularity wise. And so it got maybe the other disciples, walking in rejection. So they wanted to know what Jesus's position was on that. And so um, Jesus didn't get upset at the disciples and their question there. He understood their hearts. He understood the hurts that they were facing. Maybe they, were treated like they weren't nothing. And, Jesus gave them that attention so that they were immature in that area. And it was just something that Jesus needed to mold it. So I hope that this video really opened your eyes to the whole understanding aspect. And when you're facing somebody that's angry, bitter, lonely, or depressed, or whatever their condition is, maybe this will help you to say, okay, God, tell me about them, or Lord, give me the opportunity to be able to sit with them so I can know them. And I believe understanding is definitely we as believers need to follow. So like I said, I pray that this video helps you, and help us help us to be understanding with people. So Lord, I just thank you, Lord, that you reveal to us what we need to do, that you want us to be understanding, you want us to follow your heart and your way of doing things. And Lord, help us not to become offendable, and offended when people say things to us, or they treat us whatever out of their own hurt. Help us to walk in love and understanding, and just let the hurt just fall off our backs to where it doesn't bother us. So God, help us to be understanding, Lord. I pray this in Jesus' name. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.